Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all. This movie is a horror film from the USA, English language, released in the year 2022, directed by Zach Cregger, and this film was called Barbarian. So Barbarian is about a woman who has travelled to Detroit from interstate. She's going for a job interview. She's going to apply to be a documentarian assistant, and so she's really excited, and she's hired an Airbnb for the evening. So she arrives on a very rainy evening and she realises to her disappointment it's been double booked. There's a stranger in there who says that he booked it out legitimately, and so it appears that a horrible mistake has been made. So she initially wants to go to a hotel, but she realises they've all been booked out because there's a convention in town, and so she's left with no other option but to spend the evening inside the Airbnb with this stranger. So pretty soon she gets to like the stranger, so she's relaxing a little bit more, but unfortunately the relaxation is only temporary because strange things start to occur within this Airbnb that leads up to a reveal that is absolutely terrifying. And so whether or not she is in danger is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Barbarian. This is a movie I'd heard about for a very long time, and I came into this movie with a lot of expectations and a lot of hype. Now, outside influence is definitely something that is very hard to clear. This is a film that had a lot of positivity, a lot of people saying it's one of the best horror films in a very long time. So I was going to give this every opportunity to impress me on an individual merit, but as I said, it's very hard to shake off all the hype. And the reason why that can be a very bad thing is that you can set it on an unrealistic expectation. Now, movies are subjective, and some movies that other people like doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to like. And so if you set it up there as this groundbreaking horror film and it doesn't meet those expectations, because it's unrealistic expectation, you can trick yourself into thinking that it was a bad movie, where in fact you just didn't really give it a fair go. And so having that excitement, I was trying to contain myself by giving it expectations based on my own taste, but I was hoping that this is going to be one of the rare occasions where it really met that hype, because the trailer suggested that this was going to be an absolutely fantastic horror film. And after finally getting the chance to watch Barbarian, I will say that this is one of the rare occasions where it really matched the hype. I really enjoyed this horror film, and I think the most impressive aspect of Barbarian is the creative way it told its story. Now, this is a story that's been told before. A woman comes into a house, strange things start to occur, strange noises, and then a terrifying reveal. But what this movie does so well is that, yes, it does use its aces up its sleeve very early, but then it breathes new life into the film in the second half. And this is a film that reminded me of another movie called Proxy that I absolutely loved. I reviewed that a very long time ago. And the reason why I love that movie is it's taking two different perspectives of the same story. So a lot of these horror films, once they use their aces too early, the rest of the film just doesn't have the same effect. So you have the curiosity, you have the suspense, what's behind the door. But once you realise what's behind the door, then all of a sudden it loses that tension, it loses that suspense, and it just meanders out to a forgettable experience. But what this movie does so well, which is very reminiscent of Proxy, is that once it's revealed what's behind the door, then a different set of characters come into the second half of the film, and it takes it from a new perspective, and that new perspective asks new questions. And so it sustains its tension from start to finish, which is very rare to say these days, because this is a film that is inventive in telling a very simplistic story, and as Zach Cregger, it's an indication that he is a very, very good director. Now, the first half of the film is definitely like an Alfred Hitchcock start. You've got questions that need answering. You have a very slow build-up. Things become increasingly uncomfortable. The soundtrack was absolutely phenomenal in dictating how you were feeling. You're very on edge, but you're not quite sure why you're on edge. You don't know who to trust. You have Bill Skarsgård, who plays a very mellow character, a very laid-back character, but there are strange behaviours within that character that suggest that maybe he's in fact dangerous, but then there's other behaviours that suggest that it's all in your head. And so it's a very psychological mind game that this first half creates, but then it reveals itself in a very, very disturbing way and a very horrific way. But then the second half of the film plays off the reveal in a different way. So you have the psychological aspect in the first half, and then you have the fight for survival in the second half. But that fight for survival, as I said, poses new questions that need answering, and so I never felt as though it was meandering along. I always felt as though it was stepping up into an elevation that results in a really thrilling climax. And so the film is darkly humorous. There are moments that actually made me laugh. There were moments that shocked me, and so that's, again, something that you don't get every day in American horror films. And so it's incredibly well made. I thought the acting from Justin Long in the second half of the film was absolutely fantastic, and although it does take a different path in the second half, I never felt it steered away from the very consistent tone that the film had. So the whole movie is revolving around this Airbnb, but as I said, told from different perspectives as different characters are introduced into the film. I just thought as though I was watching the same film, but at the same time, as I said, new new questions were being asked instead of just playing it off and just meandering along into a forgettable, fizzer of a film. Whereas this movie, I just thought as though the tension was really, really impressive, the script was fantastic, the characters were fantastic, and as I said, it poses enough questions to really get it over the line. There is some really graphic kills in the second half of the film, and so that plays really well off the psychology, because the anticipation, the rewarding aspect of the anticipation is the gore. It's basically what happens, and that's the result of all the tension. And so you release that tension in a way that's incredibly entertaining, but as I said, at the same time, really, really rewarding. And so it's one of the more inventive horror films out there. It's incredibly dark and disturbing, but at the same time, there's enough dark humour in the film that elevates it in a way that I had a lot of fun watching. And so if it sounds like your kind of thing, I would highly recommend you go out there and see Barbarian. I'm going to give this film 4 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching movies, and I'll see you later.